We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we will have our ushers come for our evening tithe and offering. And then we'll have a special song, and then we'll turn it over to our missionaries. While the ushers are coming, I'd just like to say publicly a big thank you to the way Mylan has let God use him at this time, at this juncture. I believe with all of my heart, God anointed Mylan this morning. And that was very hard, but God, all along, as we've moved along, God has had different ones in strategic places that he's used. And Mylan, thank you for letting God use you this morning. I know he did, and haven't had a chance to talk to you personally, but thank you for minding the Lord. He's going to help us. All right, ushers, come. This is our evening tithe and offering. You will have another offering when our missionaries are finished for the missionaries. Lord, thank you for the privilege of giving. Bless the gifts and givers. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for your giving, and thank you for the offertory. All right, Sarah is coming at this time to sing. God bless her.
When life lets you down and you feel more broken than whole, when the wounds go deeper than words and you can't tell a soul, I may not know what you're going through, may not can make that high mountain move, but one thing I found that I really want you to know, if it matters to you, it matters to the Master. He wants to share the burdens you bear, whisper peace when your world is shattered. If it's your greatest joy or your deepest pain, or you're really needing an answer, if it matters to you, it matters to the Master. Friend, do you think the maker and giver of life is far too busy to care about your troubles and strife? He sees the sparrow that falls to the ground, and he hears the tears that that don't make a sound. If you only knew how precious you are in His sight. If it matters to you, it matters to the Master. He wants to share the burdens you bear. Whisper peace when your world is shattered. If it's your greatest joy or your deepest pain, or you're really needing an answer, if it matters to you, it matters to the Master. If it's your greatest joy or your deepest pain, you're really needing an answer. If it matters to you, it doesn't only matter to you. If it matters to you, it matters to the Master.
We have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the power of God might be seen in Him and not in us. And whatever you're going through, however big it seems to you, it matters to Him. It matters to Jesus. Well, Maria, would you come up here and just tell us about these people? And then we'll turn it over to them. I just drafted her just before service, so.
Well, just want to say that this is a very special service for me. Not only having this special family right down here in the front row, but they're going to be talking about a place very special, as you all know, very special to my heart. And it was the summer of 2015 that Andrew and I and little Samuel, he was very tiny then, had the privilege of going to Jalapa, Guatemala as a family. It was our first mission trip as a family. And it was there that we met the Shaper family. I'd never met them before. I had communicated a time or two with Crystal online, and I had been following them because I was very interested in their work. And we had made plans to stay with some nationals people because I knew that they, 5 children, that space was a little tight, and I didn't want to ask them if we could stay with them. And so we just made plans, but we found out that they were planning on us staying with them, and I think they were probably a little disappointed. But they welcomed us with open arms, and they made us feel like we had been best of friends all our lives. And it was just a really enjoyable time that summer, and God allowed us to go back another summer a couple years ago. And but that very first trip that we were there, it was just really evident to us that God had placed them there in Jalapa just at the right time. God has been using them. It's just so neat to see their friendships with the national people, and to see that despite the difficulties of adapting to that culture and that lifestyle, they fully embraced it. They loved the people. And we're just so thrilled to have them here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to them. And
there might be some that don't realize that you spent 4 years there before.
yes, I was in Jalapa, Guatemala, where they were at. I lived in the same house that they live in for a little bit. I was there from 2008 to 2012 and came back and got married. And I'm sure they'll tell you when they went, but they went shortly after that. So I'm just excited to hear what they have to share tonight. Listen up, give them a smile, and make it easy for them, please.
We just want you to know we're not judging you. We read the article to our church. So. Technical difficulties.
Good evening and God bless you.
Buenas tardes y que Dios le bendiga.
It's a privilege to be here with you this evening.
Es un privilegio estar con ustedes esta tarde.
We have seen the services many times online,
Hemos visto los servicios muchas veces en línea,
but it's a privilege to be here for the first time in service with you.
pero es un privilegio estar aquí con ustedes.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Yo puedo hablar en español también, pero mi español es bien feo, entonces voy a hablar en inglés. I can speak in Spanish too, but it's not very good, and so I'm going to speak to you in English. And if need be, Stephanie can talk louder, and you can hear her speak to you. Excuse me. Okay, very good. My name is Keith Shaper, my wife Crystal, and our 5 children. We're missionaries in Jalapa, Guatemala with Evangelistic Faith Missions. We've been serving there since January of 2015, and God has been helping and working with us, helping us there, and we are so thankful for that. I forgot my notes. If you're going to write down things, you might as well bring it to the front with you. When we felt like God called us into missions in the end of 2013, the first of 2014, we felt like God was leading us into Kenya, Africa. We were excited about that, nervous about that, but it was a fun idea that we were going to a new place that had never had a missionary from Evangelistic Faith Missions. Overwhelming, scary, all those things, you understand. But we visited Kenya twice in the middle and the end of 2014. And it was during that time when God started closing the doors to Kenya, Africa. We still don't know why. We still don't understand all that happened through that situation. But God very definitely closed the doors for us to go to Kenya. So the mission board asked us to go to Guatemala and help in the school in Jalapa for the year of 2015. And maybe while we were there, we could do some more research and God would open the doors a little bit more and continue to lead and guide toward Kenya. So we went to Jalapa, Guatemala to help in a bilingual school that was using an American curriculum, and we didn't need Spanish. So we went knowing how to say hello, and that was about it. During that first year, the missionaries that were there got sick, and for many reasons had to come back to the States, and we were left in charge of a school in a Spanish-speaking country without Spanish. But God has been faithful to us, and God has helped, and as you saw Kristen up here translating for me, and I know in your bilingual services you have translation going on. That was my life for about the first 2.5 years in Guatemala. I refused to get up in front of a church or a school gathering of any size and speak Spanish in front of everyone. I did not want to embarrass myself. When the preschoolers and kindergartners can speak better Spanish than you, it's a little intimidating to get up in front of everyone and show them your lack of ability to communicate properly. And so I would take a translator with me no matter where I went. I always had a translator, at least on call. But God has helped, and our Spanish has greatly improved. I'm still timid about getting up in front of everyone and speaking Spanish. I'm still hesitant about talking to someone if it's real important or real professional. But God has helped in a special way, and we do appreciate his help. The work in Guatemala started in the late 40s, early 50s, and the Emmanuel Church was founded. And shortly thereafter, the missionaries turned that work over to the Nationals. And the Nationals have ran that work successfully, extremely successfully. There's now over 120 churches, and it's growing and growing fast. and God has been good to the Emmanuel Church. Shortly after it was opened, they realized the need for more pastors, and so the mission opened a pastors training institute to help put pastors into these churches that were opening all over Guatemala. And it wasn't long after that the national church accepted responsibility for the Bible Institute, and the Bible Institute is now run and directed and taught and funded by the national church as well. In early 2000, the national church asked the mission to come back and help them open a Christian day school. And so that is why Maria went to Guatemala to help in the Christian day school, and that's why we're there now, is to help with that process of indigenizing that school. Started in 2008, and now 11 years later, we are in the process of putting together national leadership for the school, and that's what we're going to talk to you a little bit about. God has been so good to us, and we sure do give him praise and glory for all the things that have happened at the school there in Jalapa and through our ministry there. We always have the kids speak, and so we'll go ahead and start with that now. And we will let you have a taste of life in Guatemala through the eyes of the little ones. That's a picture of our family. The first Sunday we were in Jalapa, and that was taken 2 days before we came home. So the children have grown, and I think Dad lost more hair, and Mom's just as beautiful as ever. All right, Ashlyn, tell us about your view of Guatemala.
Hi, my name's Ashley, I'm 8 years old, and I'll be in 4th grade this year. I like being a missionary kid because I like to see how other people do their things. One main thing is their food. They eat beans, tortillas, eggs, and vegetables for almost every single meal. On special occasions, they will have chicken. They eat every single part of the chicken, well, except for the feathers. In the mountains of Guatemala, they grow vegetables all year round. Here's a truck bin full of strawberries. I like being a missionary kid because I like to see how other people do their things. Thank you. Hi, my name's Jaren, and I'm 9 years old, and I'll be in 4th grade this year. I like being a missionary kid because I have lots of friends. I also like to help Eddie, our maintenance man. I learned how to chisel, mix cement by hand, and we planted coffee trees. I also like to help my dad around the complex, especially getting down oranges. Of course, all of that comes after I'm done with my schoolwork. You can help me pray that my mom will stop making me do schoolwork. There's 2 seasons in Guatemala. One of them is rainy, which is from April till October, and the other one's dry from October till April. And the roads get really muddy. Unfortunately, this bus didn't have 4-wheel drive. Thankfully, we do. In dry season, the roads get really dry, and it's all like a desert. I like being a missionary kid because I have lots of friends. Thank you. Hi, my name is Megan. I'm 11 years old. I'll be in 6th grade this year. I like being a missionary kid because I have lots of friends there. One of the things that I like to do after I'm done with my schoolwork is to go help Hermana Rosita make tortillas. Hermana Rosita is the cook for the Bible Institute. Sometimes we put beans and cheese inside the tortilla, so like a stuffed tortilla. The main language spoken there is Spanish, but there's 21 different Mayan languages. The Mayan people are known by their bright, colorful clothing that they weave themselves. One of the things that I like to do every Friday afternoon is to go to a kids club. They've asked me and Kristen to translate songs so that the kids will know a song in a different language. I like being a missionary kid because I've learned a different culture and a different language that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Owen and I'm 13 years old and I'll be in 8th grade this year. I'm thankful I'm a missionary kid because I've met lots of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. One of my favorite things to do after I'm done with my schoolwork is help Eddie, our maintenance man, with whatever project he has going on at the school. He's taught me how to mix cement by hand, lay block, work a chisel. And I've also helped him weld since Grandpa taught me how to weld. I also enjoy playing soccer with my dad and the teachers after school on Tuesday nights. This is what Guatemalans call a chicken bus, which is basically an old school bus that they paint up, chrome up, and then fill up with lots of people. All of them have racks on top, and sometimes people ride on the racks as well. And this is what they call a microbus, which is basically a small bus that you rarely see with their doors closed because they're so full of people. And this is a tuk-tuk, which is a 3-wheeled motorcycle that you can pay to ride anywhere in. Guatemalans love their motorcycles, and they'll carry everything they have on their motorcycle with them. But whatever type of transportation they use, they often fill it up with lots of people and then use it until it's old and worn out, like this 1970 model Toyota truck that they use to deliver construction supplies in Jalapa. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen. I'm 14 years old and I'll be in 10th grade this year. I like being a missionary kid because I absolutely love the language, the culture, and the people. One of the things that I like to do after I'm done with my homeschool is go help the kindergarten and pre-K classes. I enjoy helping the kids learn and watching them grow. One of my favorite things to talk about are the 2 main holidays of Guatemala. The first holiday is called Semana Santa, or Holy Week. Every Friday during the Lent season, 50 to 100 men, women, or young men carry big wooden floats throughout the city. These floats portray scenes of the life of Jesus. They also make these big alfombras, or carpets, that stretch out through the streets of the city for the men carrying their processions to walk on. They make them out of pine needles, sawdust, wood chips, beans, fruit, vegetables, bread, and anything else they might be able to use. They put down a layer of sawdust and then wet it with water, and then they put a stencil over that and make the designs. This one has corn, beans, seeds, and grain in it. This one has cabbage for the base, and then carrots and beets for flowers, and then eggshells in the background. And the parade walks over it. They also make these as a sacrifice. My other favorite holiday to talk about is Christmas. They sell lots of fireworks on Christmas because everybody goes to church until about 10 p.m., on Christmas Eve, that is. And then they all get out and make tamales and fruit punch, and then they just sit around talking until midnight. And then at midnight, everybody shouts and cheers and yells and sets off fireworks and generally makes a lot of noise. I'm glad I'm a missionary kid because I learned a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have learned otherwise, and I can't wait to see what else I'll learn and who else I'll meet. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, kids. Come on up here, and we'll sing them a song in Spanish.
Poco a poco puedo ver cambios bellos en mi ser. Cristo me cambia a mí. Ahora que yo conozco Salvador, estoy creciendo en su gracia y amor. Cristo me cambia a mí, me cambia ya. Mi Jesucristo, no soy igual a lo que era antes yo, y aunque
Little by little, Christ is changing me. The song goes through and talks about how Christ has changed us, and one day, perfect we will be when we get to heaven. Aren't you thankful for that change that Christ made in your life? Oh, what a difference. Heard the saying, but for the grace of God, there go I. But for the grace of God, where would we be? God has truly been good to us. All right, have you ever had a normal day? What's normal, right? All right, Crystal's going to come and tell you about a normal day in the life of a missionary wife.
Good evening. Well, I first want to say I am so excited to be here because the last time I was here, I was 11, and I don't think it was in this church. And my family, we were missionaries in New Guinea, and I remember being in Shelbyville, Indiana. I don't know why. I think it was because there were so many boys in the pastor's family. So anyway, it's great to be back here with all of you again. And as we were pulling into the parking lot, I told the kids, I said, this church has supported all of us for lots and lots and lots of years. That was 91. Of course, my kids weren't even around then, but anyway, thank you for your support when I was a kid, and then your continued support now for us as we're going. So Keith wanted me to, can I use this? Keith wanted me to say what my normal day is like. And I don't have a normal day, but this is what normally could happen in my day. So one of the past missionaries made a little house, casita, out in our backyard. And I don't know what they made it for, but we painted it, and we use it as our schoolhouse. And it's been great because we can get away from the door, away from the doorbell, and away from the knocks, and we can just zone in on school there. And if we get started in time, then we're done by noon, and we're done. And because the afternoons are really pretty crazy, and so that has been a big, big blessing to our family. A lot of times school spills out of the classroom, and we go all over looking for bugs or snakes or any kind of interesting creature we could find, and write it down or draw it or do whatever we need to do with that. Our latest learning adventure has been Kristen and Owen learning to drive our standard Land Cruiser. So that's been quite a bumpy learning experience for us, but we're all here to tell the story, and they've done great with that. Another thing that almost always happens is we get little boys like this at our door, and they rarely ask for money, but they're always trying to sell us something. Most often it's a baggie of dirt or a baggie of sand, because all of my flower pots need a baggie of dirt or a baggie of sand in them, apparently. So they're asking for me to buy this so they can get some money so that they can have something to eat. So we usually make them a sandwich and get them a drink or some cookies, and I do buy some dirt and sand sometimes, and send them along their way. One thing Guatemala has taught me is that relationships are absolutely everything, and it doesn't matter whenever there is no drop-in visit. Whenever somebody comes to visit, you stop everything in your life and you visit. And they stay for a long time, and that's really taught me to time doesn't matter. In reality, it doesn't matter. And so whether you meet him on the street, your friend on the street, you have to just park it for a while and visit. And it doesn't matter if you had a doctor's appointment at 2:30 and your friend came to visit. The doctor can wait till tomorrow because your friend is so much more important. So that has really been a great learning thing for us. Usually if a family comes to visit, they're just there for the rest of the day. And so you might as well put a few more potatoes in the pot because they're going to be there for supper too, and that's okay. This is our friend Eddie and his wife. Last year they came around Christmas time, so we just said, come and have Christmas dinner with us. So they always love that because it's different food than what they normally eat. one thing that the kids and I really enjoy doing is having the supper, once a month, having supper with the teachers. And there's too many of them now to have them inside, to have them all eat inside, so we have them out on our back patio. And their favorite food to eat is lasagna, because they don't have lasagna over there. So that's their favorite thing to eat, and we just set the tables out. The kids help me a lot with that, with the cooking and getting everything ready. And it's just great to have them in a different environment than the school environment. And I love being with them, because I feel like whenever, like, we as Americans, like, especially we get married and then we're old people and we can't show that we're excited. And they're not like that. When they win the game, they are so excited and they want everybody to know that they won. So that's been great to, be young again. As Megan or Ashlyn mentioned, vegetables and fruit grow year-round there. So market day for us is always a smelly experience, but it's a good one. We go to market. We do not buy meat in the market for obvious reasons, but we do like to buy all of our fruits and vegetables. These are all like oatmeal and herbs and everything. You can buy a baggie of oatmeal, or you can buy the whole bag of oatmeal. The same with dog food. There's people that go every day and buy a baggie of dog food and go back home, or you can buy the whole bag. This is chicken, fresh from the farm. Again, we don't buy our meat from the market, but it is available if you so desire. One thing that I struggled with a lot whenever I first went was I firmly believe that my kids are my number one ministry. And so I knew I was going to homeschool. I knew I was going to be home most of the time, but I still struggled with, where do I fit in this puzzle? Because I have missionary friends that one of them, they have a feeding center and they feed like 300 kids a day. And another one is a team leader and she leads all these huge teams. And then there's me. And there's people like, so what do you do over there? And I'm like, well, I homeschool and I cook and I clean. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. So I was talking to another missionary friend and she said, you need to pray that God will give you something that you can do that you enjoy, but it will spill out on others. I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. So I started praying like that. And God answered that prayer in the form of cinnamon rolls. And I've never made cinnamon rolls before I went. But it started with our neighbor, and somebody told us, that man is from the devil himself. He's an awful man. And so I thought, well, we can't have this. So I made him a dozen cinnamon rolls, and I had Keith take them to him. And wouldn't you know, the next week or so, he brought a bunch of bananas from his tree over to us. So I made banana bread and we sent it back, and he has turned out to be the best neighbor that we've ever had. And so I'm just thankful for that. The girls and I make cinnamon rolls every Independence Day and Christmas, and we take them to our friends. Our record, I think, is 360 in a weekend we made and passed out. So they love it because they don't have cinnamon rolls over there, but it just absolutely fills my heart to do that for them, and I just feel like I'm just pouring out my love, and I just love to do that. It has also been a big help for Keith if he's had a stressful government meeting. If he goes in with a cinnamon roll, somehow it just glazes over those rough edges, and things just really go smoothly from there on out. Another thing I really like is when my friends come, they like to come so that I can teach them how to make American food. Their favorite is cinnamon rolls or lasagna. But sometimes my friend, this is Miss Betty, she comes and teaches me how to make Guatemalan meals, and I just love that. It usually takes all day, so we have to plan for that. But it's just great to have a friend. The first 2 years were really rocky there with all of that, but she has been a really great friend to me, and she comes and helps me, learn how to cook Guatemalan things, and we just love that. Another thing that my life includes is when we have company or when we have teams that come down. And it's normally a youth group that comes, and they're normally teenagers, and they are involved in different projects in the school. But one thing we always do with them when they come is take them to the city dump, because there is a whole community of people that live in our city dump. They even have a mayor that we have to get permission to go in to see them. So that's really interesting, but it is so amazing when these little boys pull back that huge metal gate, and the smell and the flies, it is just overwhelming. And you think, it's so humbling to think, these people live in and live off of my trash. And I think I have a hard life sometime. And these people, they just live there, they work there, they recycle glass, metal, and plastic, and then they take it and try to sell it wherever they can. But we usually take a Guatemalan friend with us, and he gives a hermano Ismael. He gives like a simple salvation message, and then we pass out a sandwich and a baggie of water. We've been asked not to give them a food that they have to sit down and eat, because then they'll stop working. And even the kids work. And so we've been asked to give them something they can hold in one hand and keep working as they're eating. These are some girls. The one here closest to me, she said she has 6 brothers and sisters, and her mom just died. And she said, I don't know where else to go, because I was asking her, how did you end up here? Like, where were you born that you came to live in the dump? And she said, I don't have anybody. And I can make something, I can find stuff to recycle and to sell, and this is my life now, because I need to support my sisters. So, of course, I just want to take them all home with me, but that doesn't always, never works out. So it's just amazing whenever we leave there, especially kids that come down from the States, and we're really privileged people. And especially when we go to a place like that and we just think, I really don't have it too bad after all, So that always helps me get my priorities in straight, and what is the really big picture here? So I could go on and on and on about what happens in my day, but I just want to say that I am so thankful for you guys, because there's been people that have told us, well, you guys are so brave and you're so courageous and you go and do all these things. And that's true, we go, but it's only because you are with us and you're our backbone. And I just want to thank you guys for being our strong backbone. You know what it feels like when your back goes out? It affects everything. Your head kind of hurts. You can't walk. You can't sit. You're just in a bad shape. But you guys have been such a strong backbone for us. There's been days that we have felt that. We have felt that, and we knew that you were standing behind us, holding us up, holding us strong. And there's also people that say, well, I can't give. I can only pray, they say. And to that I say, thank the Lord, because there have been times $1 million would not have helped us, but prayer did, and prayer is what got us through. And we know that it's because you guys are sitting here holding us up. And our dear little friend up here on the front row, she said, when I read about you giving your life to serve in God's ministry, I started praying for you. And it's people like that that are sending us that we can go, because it's not about us. It's not about us. It's not about what we've done. It's all about what God has done, and you guys are a huge part of that. So I just want to thank you for being a solid backbone for us that we can lean on. The hard days, we can know you're back here holding us strong, and I just want to thank you for that.
All right, going to do a little housekeeping here before we move on. Have a couple of clipboards I'd like to pass around, and if you would like to receive our family newsletter, I'd like for you to sign up for that and put your name on there, and we'll make sure you get on the list to receive our newsletter. We try to aim for monthly, but sometimes it ends up bi-monthly or tri-monthly, and hopefully it's not so crazy that it's longer than that. So when it gets somewhere back there, make sure it comes to the middle and come on up. If there's not enough room on there, just flip the paper over and keep writing, and we'll make sure you get that newsletter taken care of. All right, we have a couple of youngsters here going to pass out some prayer cards. So if you'd like a picture of our family to put on your fridge or in your Bible to help you to remember to pray for our family, please feel free to take one of those. And if we run out of those, we'll send some back to your good pastor, and he can make sure you get one of those for later. If you're like most Americans and you have two fridges, one in the kitchen and one in the garage, you might need to take two, so you can put one on each fridge. And then I have some bigger helpers, and they're going to pass out our monthly pledge booklets. So if you'd like to support us on a monthly basis, you can take one of these booklets. And those pages are perforated, so you can rip out the page and send it in with your donation, your monthly donation, and the mission will know right where to put that money, and it will help the bookkeeping aspect on their end, and it will help make a reminder for you a little easier so you won't forget, and you can keep track of it a little better. If you would like to support us, please rip out that front page and drop it in the offering plate so we'll know how our support is coming in. If you don't or you can't, you can leave that booklet in the seat, and one of our kids will pick it up after church, and we will take it on down the road and give it to someone at the next place. Progress through God's guidance. I not grew up, but when I started dating my wife, and shortly after we got married, I heard tales and tales and tales of my father-in-law's missionary life in Papua New Guinea, and how God had given wisdom for him to do something that he had never done before, or for him to make something he had never made before, or to solve some situation, or there was this problem and he didn't know how to deal with the problem because of cross-cultural and language barriers, and how God gave wisdom and helped him through those situations. And I have come to realize that verse is true in my life as well. James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. And that is so true. When you lack wisdom, you can turn to God and say, I don't know, I need help. And God comes through again and again, and he reveals himself faithful over and again. Hope Evangelical Bilingual Academy, or as we say it in Spanish, Colegio Evangélico Bilingüe La Esperanza, was founded in 2008 with about 13 students. This year, as you can tell in the picture, 2019, we have 118 students. God has been good, the school has grown, and we are thankful for that. This is a picture of the staff from this year, and 90% of the staff is associated with our Emmanuel Church. When the school got started in 2008, there was some personality conflicts, and the church just stepped back and said, do it your way, missionary. And the missionaries did it their way for a while, and the national church didn't want anything to do with it. And so we were tasked with the responsibility of trying to build bridges back to the national church and to try to increase their involvement and their participation in the school. The school was started with an English curriculum, and that was good for a while, but it inhibited the growth of the school. If you're going to accept a new student above kindergarten level, that third grader needs to be able to understand English at a third grade level, because we're using an English system. And so if they can't understand English at a third grade level, it's going to be hard for them to understand their third grade classes. Fifth grade's the same way. On up, obviously it gets a little harder. And so we had upper grades that had one or two students in it. And it's hard to make a go of a school when you only have one or two students in that grade. The first year we got there, we realized there was a need to make a change, and we started praying that God would provide us with a Christian Spanish curriculum. We called missionaries in Honduras, in Guatemala, in Mexico. We called other systems, and nobody had a good Christian Spanish curriculum. In 2017, 2.5 years later, there was a knock on the school door, and a man said, I have a curriculum. I want to know if you're interested in it. And it was a Christian Spanish curriculum that they had started writing in 2015. That company is the same company that writes the Sunday school literature for the church. We had no idea they were doing that. We had no idea they were in the business of writing school curriculum. God provided exactly what we needed. We had about 77, 78 students that year using the English curriculum. When I told them that we would be changing next year to a Christian Spanish curriculum, we lost about half of our student body overnight. The parents were not happy. The school had become an elitist type of school where it was geared toward the doctors and lawyers and the upper levels of society based on the cost of the curriculum, basically. The school year tuition was $300 for the year, and the curriculum materials was $300 for the year. So just the books doubled the price of the school year. And so with this new curriculum, we would be reducing the cost and making it easier for us to get more students cost-wise, and also changing to Spanish curriculum, thereby making it easier to accept more students in upper levels as well. When we started enrolling in 2018 with the new curriculum, the enrollment started out real slow. And I started wondering, Lord, did we mess up? Did we make a mistake? Were we wrong? And by the time we were ready to start school in the middle of January, which is the first month of school down there, we were at 85 students. God had provided when we needed it. We increased from 77, 78 to 85 last year. And this year, we went to 118. God has been faithful to us. The building there on the upper right picture you see is the roof is tile. That is the old office. Well, that's the old roof on the office. And in 2016, October 2016, I called Samuel and I said, Samuel, he was one of my students that spoke English. Would you bring your dad over and look at this property? We were renting a property beside the school, and the landlord wanted to double the rent. And I called him and I said, would you have your dad come over, and you come over with him so I can have a translator, and tell me the rental value of this property? And Hermano Misael came over and he said, it's not worth what you're paying. I wouldn't even pay that. He said, but let's go over and talk to the Bible Institute right beside the school. They have rooms they're not using. And so we went over and talked to the director of the Bible Institute. And through that conversation, God started opening doors for us to work more closely with the National Church and with the Bible Institute. And we were given a property right beside the school, but it needed a new roof. So I called the mission and I said, this is what's going on. And Brother Height said, that's wonderful. We'll raise the money. Go for it. And so that meeting that I had with Hermano Misael was the 1st of October, the first part of October. And by October 2nd, I had a group of about 15 workers in there, and they were tearing that old roof off and preparing for the new roof. The new roof was poured the end of December of 16, and that's a picture of the roof going on. It took about 25 guys, and they bucketed it by hand up in a scaffolding, 5-gallon bucket at a time, and they poured it in about 10 hours. I have a time-lapse video of that, and it takes about 32 seconds to see 10 hours worth of work. Those guys running buckets up the scaffolding, dumping it in a wheelbarrow, running the wheelbarrow across the backside, dumping it out, and coming back and doing the whole process again. It's quite the job. If you want to try your hand at concrete, that's the way to do it. Don't call Ready Mix. Call a shovel. So this is the office building with the new concrete roof when we got it done in February of 2017. Sometime after that, we started thinking that we were going to be able to put classrooms on top of this new concrete roof. We were all excited about it. We needed more space. And we felt like God said, wait a minute, you have other space that isn't well designed. You're not using it efficiently. So let's deal with that first. And so the end of 2017 and some of 2018, we remodeled what was an apartment and some office space that we were using for school, but it wasn't well designed. And we remodeled that and made 6 larger classrooms out of that area, and just what we needed when we started school for this year. We needed larger classrooms to accommodate the more students, and that was there. A neat thing about that, in that apartment, there was 2 bathrooms, almost like 2 master bedrooms, bathrooms attached, 2 bedrooms. And we said, it's a school, we don't need bathrooms in the bedrooms, and so we're going to take those out. And so I talked to Eddie, our maintenance man, and I said, under those steps that we've put in, let's see if we can put bathrooms under those steps. We had 2 sets of stairs, and so Eddie said, sure, we can do that. And years ago in the design process, God had them put the drains right there. I had no idea there was drains under those stairs. And when Eddie started digging, there was a drain under both of those steps. God provided exactly what we needed years in advance. God had them put that there. And when it came time, it was already there waiting on us. So we had this vision of changing the upstairs to a multi-purpose area. And that vision became a reality just this year. It measures about 2,700 square feet. And it's on the 2nd level. It's a wide open area that we didn't have a space like that at all before. About 10 times a year, we would have to go and rent a facility or use a facility outside of the school for awards night or parent-teachers events or school activities like chapel. And now we have a place that we can use our own and possibly even rent and make some more money for the school to help make it self-sustaining. This is a picture of what the school looked like in 2016 in November, as the roof was getting ready to be put on. That's 2016 in November, and that's what it looks like now. I'm not a general contractor, I'm not a builder, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a designer. God did that. God provided the wisdom and the guidance, and more than that, He provided the funding to do those projects. God has been so good to us. We cannot thank Him enough. One of the fun things that has happened in the school the last couple of years is we've got a band. We've always wanted a music class, and so last year we decided that it was time to do a music class. Well, out of that music class came the idea for a band. It's not a very big band, not a very good band yet, just their first year last year, and they were all excited about it, but we didn't have very many instruments. And so we talked to the teachers and said, what can we do? And the teachers said, we can do something. And the teachers got together and put their money together, and they did a fundraiser on their own to help buy more band instruments for the students. And that was encouraging to us as missionaries to sit back and watch them do a project on their own to fund their band. In Guatemala, as in most Hispanic countries, the drums are the most important band instrument. You can go to not the Christmas parade, the Independence Day parade, and you'll see a public school primary, elementary level band go by, and there'll be 100 or 150 boys, and every one of them is beating a drum. And so the parade goes by, and it's and they take 2 steps and they do it all over again. It's not music. And so I told the teachers, I said, that's fine, but our band must play music. And so we bought what they call liras, which are a little xylophone, basically, that they hold and they beat with a little mallet to make the bell sound, and they played music. So they played a couple of different songs, and when our little ragtag band would go by playing music, people would get up off of the ground and off of their buckets and out of their chairs, and they would stand and applaud our little band as they went by because they were playing music. And so that was neat. The first picture was them practicing in the streets because, of course, the parade's going to be in the street. And we got a picture of what section of the band? The drums, of course. But they were very happy with themselves, very, very proud of themselves. And we had multiple students come back and say, why did you wait till we left before you started a band? Another new thing that happened last year and has continued this year is a computer lab. All the years before, a computer lab consisted of the missionary's computer, the secretary's computer, and if one of the teachers had a computer, they used it too. It's been a requirement for many years that the school have a computer lab, but it was never met and it was never questioned either. And we don't know why, but obviously the Lord knows all things, and He was protecting us from having any problems with the government for not having a computer lab. Last year, again, through the teachers' hard work and We have some dogs that had puppies, so we sold puppies, and through puppy money and teachers' fundraisers, we bought computers. We bought 10 computers last year for the lab, plus a teacher's computer. And this year we bought 5 more and networked them. So the computer teacher can sit at his computer and he can look and see that you're over there playing Pac-Man or you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, and he can take his mouse and scroll over to your computer and he can close your game of Pac-Man or whatever, or close your calculator that you're using for math class or whatever you're not supposed to be doing, and then he can type a message that'll show up on your screen like a text, and it'll say, get back to work or you'll get a demerit or something along those lines. And if you don't listen, he can click another button and it will shut down your computer completely, and then you've lost your day's worth of work because your computer is now shut down. But we are thankful for the computer lab. Eventually, we hope it will become a source of income for the school. If you can meet some qualifications, it can be classified as a computer academy, and then outside people can come in, not just students. Outside people can come in and pay a fee and receive a diploma in computer classes, different computer classes that they pay for. And so we're excited about that possibility in the future. My wife was mentioning relationships. And in Guatemala, it's more important who you know than what you know. Hermano Misael Galvez and his wife Betty have been good friends to us, and they have smoothed many bumps and helped us along the way in many ways. If you walk into an office and you have a paperwork that you need to get taken care of and you're rude to the secretary, she will just bury that paperwork on her desk because you weren't kind to her. And so that's where those cinnamon rolls come in. You go in with your paperwork in one hand and a cinnamon roll in the other, and you're real kind, you're real courteous, and you say, I really need your help. You are the one that can help me. In Guatemala, you don't ask for the manager. Here at Walmart, if you have a problem, you go in and you tell the cashier, I need to see the manager. She'll happily call the manager, and you can deal with the manager. Well, the secretary in Guatemala is very proud of her position, and if you're rude to her, she will hold on to that stuff and not allow you to ever talk to the next person up. And so if you don't have an inroad, you have to work and fight to build those inroads. And Hermano Misael has helped in many ways, whether it's in the church or in offices in the city, to go in and say, this is my friend, he needs your help. And he introduces me to people that are past the secretary. And so it helps to facilitate things. Relationships are a premium. You know, that's awful good for the church world too. When you're out in the world, you need to build relationships. There's a saying that says they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's true. That's so true. All right, back to the missionary service. This is a picture of the National Church Board with Brother Stephen Gibson. When he came down in November of last year, we had a meeting with them. And as you can tell, Guatemalans are short people. One of the exciting things about getting to be special friends with Hermano Misael and his family is visiting churches. This is a church that we visited in the Monjas area, and this is the church where we had that delicious chicken soup. That one that was in the picture? This is that church. You know, I've heard the bones give you flavor, or you're talking about a steak, it's the fat that gives the flavor. But my kids will tell you that pot of chicken soup, the very one you saw in the picture, was the best chicken soup they ever had. So I'm not sure what gives the flavor, but it might be the feet. This church is in the city, in the capital city. This church is up in the mountains. And if you look really close, you can see what looks like a front door with a brick wall behind it. That is because that's the small old church inside. When they built the new church, they didn't go buy new land. They didn't tear down the old church. They just built over top. And so you walk in the front door of the new church and hang a hard left, and there's about an 18-inch gap, and you go down a little ways, and then there's another door, and you go into the church. And on that side, there's about 2 feet to the new wall, and over here, there's 8 or 10 feet to the new wall, and back there, it's 8 or 10 feet to the new wall. And what they'll do is they'll build that church, windows, doors, roof, everything. And when it's done, they'll go in and they'll tear down the old church on the inside and haul it out the front door, put in a floor, and they'll be ready to go back to church. They never have to miss a Sunday that way. Here's another little church on the way up. This is a church. This is a church in Pino Dulce, about an hour from our house there in the mountains. This church is up over 8,000 feet elevation. And sometimes it gets cold up there. And other times it's even colder than that. This is a picture of the youth group at the church with the team that we had down there visiting, and we took them up to the church. It's a beautiful place up there. This is a little church in the not quite all this far up in the mountains that I went to with Brother Misael and his son. It's an adobe church, and those rafters look like they're low because they are. I had to duck to go under the rafters. Just a little bitty church on the side of the mountain. This pastor, the first man you see, pastored 3 churches. So he would pastor the first church, preach in the morning, and then he would have lunch and walk across the mountains for a couple of hours and have another service, and then walk across the mountains in another direction for a couple of hours and have another service and walk home that night. And he said it was much faster than a bicycle or a motorcycle or a horse because he didn't have to follow the paths and the roads that those vehicles required. He could just cut the shortcut on his feet. This is the very first church that the Emmanuel Church ever started in Rio Grande, Sanarate. It's about a 12-hour horseback ride from Jalapa. It's about an hour in the car. But the original missionaries, the Iggs family, they would ride their horses down out of the mountains 12 hours to this little church, to this area, and leave their horses there and then get on the train and ride the train into the capital city back in the late 40s, early 50s. And out of that horse station became a church. So that's the very first Emmanuel Church ever started. Because of your support, people like you who sit here at home have faithfully supported us when we're not at home. And we thank you for that. Because of you, we were able to attend Spanish classes. It gets expensive when you enroll 7 students in Spanish class. The school has been improved and made more affordable. More students are receiving Christian education. The national church is becoming more involved. That's why we can be here, is because the national church involvement has increased. If there wasn't people on the job there, we couldn't be here. We have a committee from the national church put together, an education committee, and they are doing the day-to-day administrative details that I was responsible for. We now have an accountant that is on the job, writing checks, paying the bills, making sure the money is taken care of. He's taking care of another one of my jobs, making sure that things are handled right. The church is becoming more involved, and we're excited about that. They're making progress and taking responsibility for the work. Families are seeing a difference in their children. Students' lives are being changed. If we change the children, we can change the culture. Every morning we have teachers' devotions at about 6:45. And probably once a month, a teacher will come in and say, I had a parent talk to me, or I'm seeing a difference in the lives of my children in my classroom. One parent came in and said, we're not Christians, but we like the discipline at this school, so we put our kids here. But you know, it's funny. Our kids won't eat anymore if we don't pray over the food. That's good. That's great. You teach them, kids. Our teachers are investing in the lives of those children, and now the children are helping to teach mom and dad. So not only are the lives of the children being changed, the children are affecting the families. Guatemala, as most Hispanic countries, are greatly affected by corruption. From the national president of the country all the way down to the mayor and the police chief and the police. When you get stopped by a traffic cop, he really probably hasn't found anything wrong with you. He just needs some money. Because he hasn't been paid for 3 or 4 months, because the local mayor wanted to go on vacation, and so the police didn't get paid. And so now he needs money to feed his family. And so he'll accept a bribe from you just so he can feed his family. What we're hoping is that with changing the children, we can change a culture. I may convince Grandpa that this is wrong, but his children are gone. Their lives are already set in a path, in a cultural path. But if we can change the lives of these children and teach them that lying is wrong, we don't accept a bribe because that's not following the rules. We have a rule book, the Bible. We have morals, we have values that we need to follow. When they become the daddy, they teach their children. And then their grandchildren receive the same teaching. And that's how we can change a culture. The Lord willing, someday one of our students from the school or from the church will be president of that country and will show them the proper way of having a good leader, a leader that has morals and character. We have potentials for more schools. We're excited about that. There's a church just down the road, about 30 minutes. They already have 6 classrooms that are put together and ready for students. They're just lacking the kitchen, the dining room, and the bathrooms. So we're hoping that within the next year or two, Monjas, Guatemala will have a school just like ours. Next year, we're hoping to add 8th and 9th grade back to the school. Because of the way the government requirements are, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade are more profitable. It takes about 7 students to pay for the teaching staff that's required to teach those grades. And so if we have 7 students in 7th grade, 7 and 8th grade, 7 and 9th grade, all the teachers are paid for. In primary, it takes 12 or 13 students to pay for that teacher. It makes it harder to become self-sustaining and self-supporting if you have to have 13 students just to pay for one teacher. So what we're hoping is that we can get more students in those upper grade levels and make it more profitable for the school, because if we can get to 150 students, the school will almost be able to pay for itself and become self-supporting and free of mission requirements. Right now, the school pays for their teaching staff normal stuff, but all the utilities, the maintenance, and the bonuses that are required by law, the mission still has to cover those. And so we're hoping that within the next year or two, we'll get to the point where the school will be able to cover itself completely, and we're excited about that. We're preparing for the future. We're trying to work ourselves out of a job. As any good missionary would do, you train them so you can either go home or go on to the next field or go on to the next job. And we're excited about the possibilities of getting to do the next project, what God has for us. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're excited about that. Thank you for your help, for your daily prayers. That's exciting when I hear, and forgive me, a little grandma down here on the front row say, "I pray for you every day." I'm happy if somebody puts a $100 check in the offering. I'm even more happy if it's a $1,000 check. But that made me happy because prayer changes things. And if you want to be humbled, you have somebody tell you they're praying for you. Praying for you on a daily basis. That's humbling. Thank you for your monthly support. We need it. We don't get any money out of Guatemala. All of our finances come from the States, and we need those monthly support pledges that you send in. Thank you for your calls, your messages, your communications, your visits. Those things help us and encourage us, keep us on top, and we appreciate those. For the future, pray for guidance and wisdom. As we start putting national people in place, in places of leadership, positions of leadership, as they're taking responsibility, it opens you up. It opens you up to being wrong and failure, problems. Just the other day, during IHC, I got a call from the director and $400 was missing from the school. We don't know. We're assuming a door got left open and somebody found it and walked off with it. But those are the things that you open yourself up to as you start putting the keys, so to speak, in their hands and letting them run it. So pray for us that God will give us wisdom and guidance as we start choosing the national leadership to step in and fill those needs. And continue to pray that God will be with us for the financial support that we need. God has been so good to us, supplied every need over and over again. When we have a need, whether it's personal need or a mission need for the school, all we have to do is put that need out there, make that need known, and God's people come through in a wonderful way. And that's exciting to us to see how God supports us. God takes care of us. God keeps us, keeps his promises to us, and we're excited about his faithfulness to us. Because of your support, our hand can touch and help and hold their hand. This picture was taken of my wife's hand at the dump. One of the times we were there, we gave out these little bracelets that has the wordless book colors on them to remind them of the plan of salvation. And because of your support, we're there touching lives, young lives, the lives of children for the work of the Lord. Thank you for allowing us to come. It has been a privilege to be here with you. I can now say I've finally been to Shelbyville, and it's been an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Schaefer family, all of you. Wonderful job, wonderful challenge. And God knows who among you maybe, that he wants you to take a little booklet and make that a special missionary project. So you just obey the Lord. All right, our ushers are coming. Bobby, are you ready? And the other ushers with Bobby. Okay. So the rest of you ushers join Bobby. Bobby's our head missionary usher, and he's been doing this for many years. All right, fellas, just come on and we'll... If you make out a check, you can just make it out to our local church, and then Charles will make out a check to them. Lord, we thank you for what we've heard. We thank you for your people. We thank you for those, Lord, that answer your call. We pray you would just bless this ministry. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for your giving. Sure. All right, we're going to stand. We're going to let our missionaries go on out by your display out there. You can go right now if you like. And then we'll be dismissed. Andrew, would you dismiss us, please?